Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 22nd episode of the HSBG podcast. I'm your host, Educatedcollins, and joining me is my constant co-host, Shady Money. Shady Money, how are you doing?
Fantastic, Collins. I'm looking forward to it. How are you, my man?
All right, for a different reason than the podcast, which is great. We'll probably start talking about it a little bit later, but it's been generally a good week. A lot of fun games going on. Hasn't been any announcements or any meta shifts that's went on this week. I think right. The announcements is like, oh, there's a new expansion, but if you play Battlegrounds, you don't care.
The
You know.
announcement is your perks are gone. Deal with it.
Oh yeah, that was annoying because I
Yes.
some of our players had to play without perks for the whole tournament, and I was just like, well, I mean, I see you have a bad hero. Like, sorry about that. There's nothing we really could do about that. So, yeah, that was
Let's
pretty
cover
weird.
that, right? Like, what was that all about for anyone who was not playing? Because it was a relatively short window if you don't play every day. Like, I don't know, like 12 hours long or something,
Yeah,
where perks were gone, but you couldn't buy them with gold yet.
yeah,
So the only way to get perks was to do the pre-order because that's the only one that had perks that you could buy at the moment. Now, this was the exact same thing last time I heard. So my first instinct was, yeah, that's just Blizzard being Blizzard. It's not really intentional question mark, but you can't pull that shit two expansions in a row and just be like, we're working on resolving it because that's their Twitter feed, right? When you ping them like, what's going on? I can't buy perks. Yeah, we're working on it. It's like, come on. It's like what 3-4 months ago, exactly the same shit, and now it's just like, yeah, that's not just a way to try to get more pre-orders out of people. I don't know.
you got your tinfoil hat. They want
I mean,
pre-orders.
if it's one time, it's tinfoil hat. If it's two times in a row, it's be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
This is planned. We
Let's
want
be
our
real.
we want our money. It's possible too, right? Another thing is like it did take a while to resolve, right? Once they knew they were aware of it, right? If they've done it before, but another thing you could just be is like, oh, just gross negligence. Which I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know which one is worse. That's the problem. I am very much open to, you know what? This problem happened last time, but I really, really don't want to spend resources into fixing it. It's only once every expansion. Let's just let it sit there for another few expansions.
Yeah, like, oh, this, like they had it last year. It's like, oh, this problem came up. Oh, can we fix it, or do we just want to do our quick solve? Oh, let's just quick solve, and then they forget about it, right? And the next expansion, like, oh, same problem. Oh, we don't have a pre-fix. We have to now spend another 10 hours fixing it again, calling up the guy or girl. I mean, like, oh, it happened again. Can you come back into the office? And they're like, oh my God, like that could honestly be the case, which is probably worse. I would rather them just be green, just have things break every week, every expansion, accidentally. But hey, if you weren't playing at that time, it wasn't a problem, and it did get solved like same day, right? So not
I
the
think there was the same time window there was last time,
yeah,
where there's just this like weird zone where perks are out, but you can buy them.
yeah. So just a weird little thing, a little bug is what I'll call it. But it was solved, so perks are on the menu again. So if you like perks, you like playing, having four options, and playing against people that also have four options. Honestly, it reminded me of the like back in the day, right? You used to only have three options, and you're like, oh, which ones do I want, right? And then they moved it to four, and you were like, oh my God, I always get a good hero. And then they added too many heroes, and now you're like, well, it's back like we just had
Well,
three.
that's not hooked us, Jandis or going. What the
Yeah.
hell?
So it kind of brings me back to that those feelings of you're like, wow, I'm really RNGing this whole match based on the hero here. Oh man, but yeah, we got through it. So that is something good thing to bring up here. But we always start. I feel like we've already talked about it, right, with the weekly overview. Uh, there was um, another bartender I saw one of the
Yeah.
players. Yeah, they had the bartender. I don't know the voice lines, but maybe I'll mix it up, right? I have Tiki as the mascot here, but maybe I'll switch it up, add the other bartender. I know Rag wouldn't like that, but he's the bartender, so I just he doesn't have to work every day, right? Every week.
He looks like he's taking it quite chill,
That's
regardless.
true. That is a good point. So maybe he doesn't mind it, but I want to see the other one. It's not his call, but generally in terms of just battlegrounds, I've seen a lot of fun games. Right, uh, nothing crazy. I was um that Yashraj buff. I'm seeing a lot of Yashraj do well. Just just quick aside, I've seen it. I was like, oh, Yashraj's doing okay now. The buff actually felt relevant, right? I mean, it ends up being like it heals you for like 6 to 8 plus health. That's kind of a lot, and also makes using it the hero power in the late game not as like I'm always losing. So seen a lot of good Yashraj games. People hyper leveling to 6. I think hyper leveling 6 is even more common than it was before, which is like, like I always think, oh, is that really the way to play? Just RNG your sixes. But there's a lot of heroes that you can do that. You could just go to 6 and then, okay, is Elementals in? Do I get double Little Rag? Is Caligos in? Can I get a Dragon Surgery early? Is Beast in? Do I want to go Golden Macaw? A lot of people just going to 6. Pirate Scam as well, always. So see a lot of it. Don't know if it's what they want to do, but they are planning on changing a lot of the cards and probably making it more relevant to stay low, maybe stay on. I want to see a comp where you can just stay on 3 the whole game and be like, yeah, I'm fine. Like right now, it would be Juggler. Is like maybe you could do it right because Juggler is the key comp, so maybe you could stay on 3 with Jugglers. But other than that, it's
I
kind of
guess Serana, right? And Weaver Starlisk.
okay.
Those are two.
Yeah, but that's like one hero. You're not.
Oh no, you have Arana, but then there's multiple heroes that can play Weaver Starlisk, right? Silas, Hooktusk, right? They can very easily
But
just
I
get.
don't see that. It's not common. It's not the traditional
I
strat.
feel like it's a thing where tons of people don't know that it's possible, but when
Sure.
Murlocs are out and you start with like 2 Weavers, and then on tier 2 you open a Starlisk, you're like, oh, I can do
So
that.
what you're saying is it's niche, and that's
Yeah, but I'm
my point
saying
is I
it's
don't
a
want that.
comp. It can happen, Collins.
What you're saying is you have a book list of secret strats, and that is one of them, and no one else has this book, so no one else is doing it. And you're just like, yeah, you can stay on 3. And I watch tons of games, play tons of games, and I don't see anyone staying on 3
What
pretty
can
much
I
ever.
say? You gotta try it. It's a thing when no Murlocs are in though. It's just a stat thing. You just get a bunch of stats and then you try to triple later on and maybe like get a champion or something or a gold grubber to add
Yeah.
more to the stat
Well,
pile.
a comp that requires this to be in, like Elementals Beasts to be in, and Murlocs to be out, is a comp that
All
doesn't
demons,
get
demon
played.
beast. But yeah, it is niche, like you say,
Yeah,
it is very niche.
yeah.
All right.
I just
Regardless, I don't know if I'm too much of a fan of that because that's hard to balance when obviously they can be viable, but they just need to have their power level adjusted where
oh
they
okay.
can't contest the tier sixes pretty much, right?
No,
Because why you're leveling them.
I'm kind of like thinking as like maybe mech level, right? Because like before all this, like initially mechs were like, okay, you could play mechs and you could like top forward mechs, but you weren't like thinking, oh, I'm gonna win with mechs.
Mhm.
But they were still winnable if you have like the perfect situation and you like start uh getting the comp from like early on, right? Double juggler, both have menace, everything's perfect. You have the resets. Can actually win. And I've seen some mech comps win recently too. But it's not like something you're like gonna force or encourage, right? It's like you try to get a 5 or a 6, you don't, then you'll like fall back to mechs, or you get a mech early and you're like, okay, I've got 2 deflectors early, I'll commit. I want to see something like that. That's what I'm trying to say.
And then indeed, where especially now with 25%. Like we could talk about this as well. It feels like the even though not that much has changed from, we'll call it the previous meta, right, to this meta. I feel like a few weeks ago there was this fundamental shift with how people started playing, and it feels much more like a go crazy kind of meta where it feels like we're back in prizes, even though it's only 25% of the game. We have
So
prize games.
so this always happens when they introduce like strong heroes because it comes in every game, right? Like when they add a hero that's
Sure,
popular, it's
that's
in every
true.
game because 8 heroes, 4 options, 32, right? Even if there's like 40, 50 heroes, there's a high chance someone's picking a Gale Wing, and right, if Gale Wing's like the most popular hero or whatever, right, and that playstyle is to hyper level, you're gonna have a hyper leveler player every game. And if you're like, oh, I always lose to the person going Gale Wing, always tier 6 early, and then there's a Omu or there's a Hook Tusk, there's a Jan that's also doing the same thing, and you're like trying not you're trying to be the odd one out, the level 4 player or the Armcom Tom, and you get blown out by huge elementals, you get blown out by just regular pirate scam or dragons or whatever. You're like, well, I need to do that when I'm playing it, as well as you get the Gale Wing yourself. Then you do it. You're like, oh, this was fun. I destroyed my
Like,
opponents.
oh,
That
it's
was really fun.
possible. But,
Let's do
yeah.
that again. So anytime they introduce all the like a number of strong heroes that rely on RNG power level or super strong board states to win, it just encourages everyone else to follow that trend. So even though you're not getting prizes every game, you're getting people that are leveling like prizes every game, and then other people are trying to copy that playstyle, even if they're not playing those OP heroes in order to like match up. So I always notice that when they add a strong hero, then everyone starts playing crazy, and I'm like, yeah, it's because there's a Janus in every game. When Eudora was like that, I was like, oh, Eudora's in every game. Everyone's playing crazy. Hooked us. Oh,
Yeah, you got a high roll just to have a shot.
yeah. So I just knew this would happen when
I
Gilwing
mean,
was
it's
introduced.
an adaptation where you have to follow suit, or you're just not gonna get anything done because this when with this change of meta, I was a huge proponent of tier 4 gaming because it served me incredibly well in the previous meta, even though, I call it the previous meta, but no cards were really changed. It's just like prizes were offered and Gale Wing got printed, and I guess maybe a couple. Oh, there was like Gallywix is now a thing, right? Is a bit more of a high roll. There
Hmm.
was a fairly large patch and,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
introducing some new heroes. But even then, like when you look at that, that's not fundamentally like, oh, tier 4 is garbage now. You wouldn't say that based on what they released, but because the meta changed into this, oh, I got a high roll or die. Tier 4 just doesn't do well in that environment because you're you're just you can do everything right and still come in fifth or sixth. And that is just, but you don't have a shot at first. That's the thing. Oh, it is just not worth. You need to have a shot at first. And that's how I've been playing as well. And I feel like I've been in this like training like boot camp for the last 2 weeks. We're like, all right, level the six, level the six, level the six, and now I'm just like, okay, comfortable, let's do it. Now I'm just winning a ton of games, and even in like lesser heroes, noticing those opportunities, be like, okay, we can level here, we can do this, we can do that.
Yeah, sounds really good. So I don't know how to solve that right without like nerfing either the 6 drops or the heroes, right? And I think both are hard to do correctly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like you mentioned, they are going to do a huge rework
Yeah,
anyway.
you just have to
So
hope that
yeah,
fixes it, right? Like,
you gotta just let them do their thing, and then they're gonna throw some chaos at us, and we're like, okay, what have they done now? And then the meta settles in a bit, and we figure out, okay, what kind of a meta is it gonna be?
yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how the game fundamentally changes with the. Should I call it a rotation? What a rotation!
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can call it the biggest patch Battlegrounds has ever seen, right? Without seeing the
Theoretically, we don't
yeah,
know.
hypothetically, we haven't seen it yet, but I think they mentioned between 20 and 30 cards being reworked. So
They said it might be like 35 plus.
35
Yeah,
plus. Yeah,
yeah, like
that's a different game at that point, right?
yeah.
You're playing a different game. Like 35 cards out of how many we're even playing with. And I don't know, is that gonna be like, we've removed all tokens? We added more tokens. Like, there's so many, like that's just one tiny little aspect of the things that could happen, right?
That would be the biggest change itself. Like
Yeah,
the
it's like
remove
suddenly,
chain. Okay,
oh,
yeah.
you can't do brand tokens anymore, for instance. Like, oh, brand is garbage.
Hey,
Or we added
hey,
more tokens. Brand is
hey.
amazing.
Even without tokens, the brand can still pop off. Okay.
The brand hero is, yeah, I don't know. Like I've been crushing with him, but it's exclusively tier 1 gaming, get
Yeah.
the
See,
triples
and I
and
don't need that. So what happened?
Collins just get some good old fashioned high roll,
Good,
right?
good
Just
old
open good
fashioned.
cards in the
Just get
shop.
mugs or whatever, and just use your divine shield minions to win. Yeah. Just go. I mean, my favorite comp is if you taunt everything, play some
Yeah.
strong shells. You can do
Strong
that.
shells.
Just strong shell gaming, baby. But yeah, it will be interesting when they finally do get that done. I don't know what it's gonna be, and I'm sure it's not gonna be perfect. I just because you're trading too many things, too many factors, or too many cards. But it will be fun regardless of
Yeah.
how it
Tons of
turns
things to test, and we will tank our MMR so you don't have to, guys.
out.
Test things out.
Nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna win. Okay.
Oh, college is gonna be, well, to be fair, on average, right? People that play, like we get ahead of the curve very fast just because we play a lot. So it is in our favor, even. And I actually don't know. No, I think at least for me, I do a lot better in an established meta, but you might thrive in this, like, oh, just give me new cards and I'll figure it out quickly.
I also like um well, it depends on how much time I put into it, right? When I play nonstop, I also like the establishment because then I know everything, right? I've tested everything, so it's like
You,
okay,
yeah, you can,
yeah,
you just have the knowledge of like, I know this shop, it's
yeah,
this buy. I
yeah,
know here it's
yeah,
level every time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember before dragons were in. I think that was like when I was the most comfortable in the game overall, where I was just like, I actually know what is correct. Like like that's a hard thing to know.
That
Uh,
feels so good. That feeling for me is like, oh, beautiful. Some people hate it, right? They're like, oh, I want things to be, and even when you're very comfortable, you're still learning things. This is
yeah, yeah,
small things you're
yeah, yeah,
working on,
yeah.
absolutely. But you just have more and more situations where, like you say, you just know, you're like, yes, seen this. I've seen this enough times.
Yeah.
I know I die if I do this, and I know I win the game if I do that. So let's do that.
Yeah, yeah. So that was definitely the time, and it was so fun. And then they changed everything. It was like, yeah, everything's hard now. So yeah, it always depends. But even then, just playing with new stuff can be fun, especially if the things that are new are things you want to play, right? Like, if you like this hero, you like this here minion, right? You want to play with them, and they're fun and they work. Then it's always good to do this. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, let's go.
Think we have oh yes. So this week I have started a new endeavor, I guess. We've been having weekday tournaments, so that's been pretty fun. It's Monday to Friday. We have like two groups where 8 players, they play 4 rounds, about 2 hours, and it's been fun. It really lets me like appreciate the people that do this, all the time, constantly, Nickelodeon, all that stuff. Really, just like, oh yeah, there's a lot of like different issues that arise whenever you have tournaments. But generally, I've been having a lot of fun. I've been getting to cast, just watch people play, get and cast, and just like see their games. So it's been a lot of fun, just playing, or I guess watching people play, and then commentating on their gameplay, and just seeing the community and how they like to play it. Sometimes there's like stuff I'm like, I didn't think about that. There's a game, I think it was yesterday, where they had a turn, and I was like, okay, so they could just be lazy and they could buy the money, and I, just end on the money. And I was like, and then they ended up like selling their minions, leveling, not buying the money, buying something else, and I was like, that's better. Like, oh, that's actually a way better play. Another turn where someone is playing Mutinous, right? And they could have just like bought minions and done like they had it was like a prize game. They had the good stuff. They could have like bought their minions. They ended up using the good stuff, eating something, and then leveling. And I was like, oh yeah, you could just level here. They had one minion and leveled.
Yeah.
It was great.
That was the 6 gold turn, right?
Yeah, 6 turn.
Right.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was really good. Yeah.
that's your. I think that's just such a standard Mutinous thing to do to tier there. A lot of people play Mutinous. They're just like, screw it. I'll just
The
tier
thing
it.
is, there was like a spawn, another good minion, right? Like it made sense as well to just like buy minions and go from there. But they
Uh, I've not to chime in too much on that,
go
but
for it, go for it.
I've done that myself, and it's really awkward to have a spot on Mutinous because first of all, it can eat the buff, and then you're kind of you're not forced to eat the spawn. You probably want to eat the spawn next turn,
Yeah.
and you're continuously making your board smaller. So
It
spawn is so counterintuitive because
depends on how you play mutinous, you know.
yes, for sure. But I suppose, I guess this is what I'm trying to say is that I've played Mutinous a lot of the time where I just treated the hero power like a small upside that I will just use whenever I was going to sell the minion anyway. And that almost never works out for me, where that is nothing compared to how good the hero power can be when you're eating almost every turn. Like even when mechs are out, you can do something where you just tier to 5 on 9 gold just
Hmm.
by continuously eating. Whereas a lot of other heroes, if they want to go to tier 5, their board is going to be fairly weak. But because you can generate a gold by removing a minion, without, you don't have to sell it, you can just consolidate the stats. You actually get to tier 5 in an okay shape. And then you just, you're so strong. But that only happens if you sort of religiously, keep eating minions and keep adding to the pile.
Yes, I don't know. It's
Basically, hero power a lot, even though it's gonna feel awkward and you're gonna be like, "Oh, then I just float a gold." But it's like, yeah, that's the gold you pay for the stats merging service. And a lot of the time, the gold is not gonna be floated because you're gonna be able to reinvest it in another minion or in a tier. But sometimes, I'll give you a good example.
Mhm.
So I had I tiered to 4, and I would not have had much reason to eat. So I had 2 minions on the board, and it's 8 gold. So 8 gold is generally when you tier to 4.
Yeah,
And we know that it costs 7 gold then. Yeah, it costs 7 gold. So you have 1 gold left.
yeah,
If you eat the minion, you have 2 gold left.
yeah.
It's weird, right? So what I did was I rolled, and then I just ate my minion so that I only had 1 big minion. And that means that next turn I'm guaranteed to transfer it to a shield if I roll into a shield, or
Right.
into a cleave if I roll into a cleave. So that is also a powerful thing where if you eat every turn, you can make it so that, oh, I'm on tier 4 now and I have 1 giant minion. So I have a 100% success rate if I want to transfer the stats somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's what ended up happening in that particular game as well. They put it on a divine shield minion with 100% win rate. And yeah, it was fun. I wasn't I was impressed, by that particular game. So it definitely works out well if you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet it works wonders for your gameplay as well to just like watch like great players and just like watching them like, huh, okay. It's like Pep OG, right? It's like, okay, do the thing. That's what Collins actually doing when he's casting all these terms. Like Pep OG. All right, yeah, okay.
Just taking those mental notes for sure. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. Right, the hardest part is setting up the teams, the groups, right? Because you have people leaving and whatnot. And but other than that, once the games are going, you have the people playing. It's really fun. It's really fun just watching people and commenting. Oh, they're doing that. Oh, they're doing that. They're doing that. I also think it's helpful, just like if you are um learning itself, right? If you want to watch people play, right? If you're playing your own games and you watch me commentate, I make sure to make you understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? So sometimes you'll watch someone and you'll be like, I don't get it. right? And if there's ever a moment like that, I'm making sure this is why they're doing this, you know. And then there's some moments where it's like, I don't know why they're doing.
When they're burning gold, I don't know why they
I
burnt
don't
it.
understand why they're throwing away this gold or
Why
they're
are
not
they making
rolling.
a 4 instead of a 6 here? I don't understand.
But most of the time, you know, it makes sense to me. I can understand their line. So, you know, it's all fun. We've got one tomorrow as well. I still have spots open because I haven't really looked, you know, like I'll do that after the podcast. I'll look and see who signed up. But there's always spots, and there's always people that can't make it randomly, like 10 minutes before it's supposed to start. You know, so there's always spots.
So, how have you been handling, let's say, a lobby where you only have 6 or 7 people that can go
I,
instead of 8?
I've never had a lobby with 6 or 7 people. There's
So, do you just recruit in the moment, or what?
yeah. I'll sometimes I'll have like extra people. It's not all the time, or um, like usually the stream will start with the first group, right? Like where I'm setting up most of the first group, right? So if someone's leaving, I can still like look through the list of people and be like, oh, can you come in? And fortunately, we've been able to do it. The second group's a little bit more risky or flaky, right? But usually, if there's people missing, we'll have like someone from the first group will be like, "Oh, I'll be willing to play again," and that's been saving me. Or someone will come in randomly. So,
All right. Yeah,
um,
I guess that's cool, right? People that
yeah,
want to go
yeah.
again.
So that's been helping a lot. Without the people from the first group being able to be like, "Oh yeah, I could play another round," we would have like a group of sevens and six sometimes, you know. Seven is kind of okay because if you start with a group of seven, I believe the dead guy is just the lowest health player. I think that's what happens if you
It,
start with.
from what I understand, it is a copy of their board in real time, though, right?
Yeah,
Just like you'd be facing them. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I guess lowest health player would make sense. Yeah.
yeah. So it ends up still being okay because you can't just like hyper level uh with the free guy. You still take damage if you do that, but it is still pretty it's still weird. You want 8 people, right? Like you want the full group. So um, definitely grateful for all the players that participate and whatnot. And it's been fun. I don't know if This is a pilot, right? So I don't know how it will fully flesh out, how it'll change with time, but we just have to see, right? It is tiring, you know. This is the most tired I've been in a week.
All
In a week
the
for
all the
so
extra stuff, right? The
yeah,
sitting down and casting part is fun, but it's running after people,
yeah.
making sure
It,
everything is running smoothly.
Imagine you have to set up this podcast. You Shade every day.
Imagine having to run after a tiny human and make sure it eats and all that.
Yeah,
You
it's as well as setting up the like you have all that and then you add this on top. Yeah, that's basically what it is. So yeah, it is a lot of extra work, but it's been fun for now. Any
No, I
any
mean
any thoughts
for
or
sure.
things? You said you had some.
So, is there any price support at the moment, or is everyone playing for the glory?
So for Monday, um, I had a bundle for the first group, and then this Friday also, the second group has a bundle, and I've been giving subs to the winners so far. I would love to have sponsorship of some time or maybe something, right? I didn't want to do that for like the first pilot, right? Because we don't know how I don't know how things are gonna change overall, right?
Yeah.
But I would definitely love to add some small monetary sponsorship, even like $5 or something like that. I think would be encouraging, right, for players. So I
I
will
think
definitely look into that.
Pokey does a lot of crowdfunding as well,
Yeah,
for the
I
tournaments.
mean,
So
if I have the
that's,
crowd to fund, then I would love to do that too.
well,
So
I mean, you can open it up, right? See if people want to.
yeah, sure, I will. These are the suggestions I love to hear. Give me that kind of stuff, and I'll see what I can do with it. But yeah, that's that would be great. Right now, it's just a bundle if you want the pre-patch bundle. You get that alternative bartender skin. Just saying, it's the second group on Friday, so it's Friday group 2 if you're actually interested in that. So I have some people that are specifically like, oh, I want this day, and I'm like, yeah, they want the bundle, right? Like they picked the first day of Monday, the last day of Friday. Like, I understand. I understand. Yeah, so yeah, there's some there, but I'll see how it goes in the future. Anything else?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the potential of sort of a winter tournament later on, but that
Right.
is, I guess, to be determined where, you're going to see, okay, am I liking this? Can I get everyone on board and all that? So,
Yeah, I initially was thinking about that, like maybe having like a group on Saturday for like all the winners, right? But as I've done like the first 3 days, I realized like timing is really important for a lot of the players where they can't do Tuesday, but they can do Thursday. Well, not Thursday because there's none on Thursday. They can do Friday. They can't do Monday, but they can do Wednesday, or they can do. Some people can do it all the days, right? But it's not everyone, right? Especially not all the winners. So uh, it would be hard to be like, okay, you, all on Saturday, 5 o'clock sharp. Make sure you're right. It's been tough. I think if I do more of these and there's like a list to pull from, then it would probably be easier to be like, okay, so all you guys are invited. We'll see who can make it, and then we can have a tournament there. But I didn't want to do that for the first week, right? I wanted to make sure it runs before you start adding all these like little twists and turns. So
yeah, that's totally fair.
yeah, so
Totally fair. All
but
right, well,
I'm
look up
definitely
for
thinking about it. Yeah, it's in the works. Well, it's not in the works, but it's a reasonable goal that exists in my head. So it's have to put it into reality, which might take some time. Who knows? But yeah, that's true. But yeah, having tournaments. There's another one on Friday, and then we'll see how it goes. I probably will do something similar next week. I don't know if I want to switch up the days or switch up the groups or anything like that, but for now, been working. Anyways, let's move on.
I'll try to make a guest appearance either as a caster or a
Yeah,
player.
I would love to. I would love to have you cast or play. I think you could probably play the first group, right? It's from
What is
like
the yeah?
eight
Let's
to eight
advertise a
to
bit.
10. For
8 to
your
10
time.
for
Yeah,
me. Okay,
yeah.
sure.
So you could probably squeeze that in. I think.
Yeah, for sure. I do a bit later anyway after podcast. So.
All right. And next topic, I believe we're talking about Ash Fallen. I don't know if we talked about it when it came out, right? I don't think
We've not really covered him in depth at all.
yeah.
Kurtrus.
I think it's been doing pretty well right now, right? Since now that everyone kind of knows how to play it, it feels like the type of hero you like. I play my trap card. I get two stats and all my minions. Okay. Oh, I've run out of cards. But I'm top 4. It's good. It doesn't matter. So I've seen a lot of people just like you go to like turn 6, turn 7. They trigger it multiple times, and then they kind of rely on either using their strong board to level, then get a board state that can scale, or they just kind of rely on death rattles or max beast death rattles to kind of survive till top 4, right? It's definitely a hero that gets top 4 a lot, just because you don't die early as long as you're using the ability, right? I think early on people weren't even using their ability or using it too late, where people had a board that could deal with the extra stats, but now that people are using it relatively earlier on time, people can't deal with their board when it triggers, and then you win those like next 2 fights. So even if you're not as strong as other people later on, you still have like that health advantage to not die before other people, and you end up getting top 4. Anyways, I see that happen a lot. So it's definitely works when you can, and even if you don't, you're not using its hero power efficiently, like you're not going death battles or things like that. Even just the two stats alone, the 2/2 aura, uh, just gives you enough to make a couple good comps. Like egg becomes okay. It's a 2/7. It becomes a 10/10. Right, that's an easy thing to like just put somewhere, and it will do some work for you. I had a couple of people do that, just run egg. It's like, okay, well, it works, I guess. You know, like it's not a winning comp, but it did get them where they wanted to be. What's your thoughts on it?
It's funny. It's a hero that does the complete opposite of the thing we covered about earlier, where kind of high rolling and going hard
Right.
for tier sixes is the meta. But I suppose if you do tempo well enough, you're kind of like Cthulhu esque status, where
Yeah.
yeah, probably not first, but probably gonna head towards top four. Do you have any particular things you like doing on them in terms of curve or strategies? Like I know you like the like menace and egg and stuff, but is there anything where you're like, okay, I'd like to pop the hero power on this turn?
Um, I like pirates are in. I know that's not like just the
Yeah,
option of hitting the three,
gambler.
yeah, the gambler. It just makes the curve so easy, and it also allows you to be like, okay, I'll trigger it next turn, this turn, and I'll trigger it the next turn as well, because I'll just hold the gambler for a turn, and then it makes the curve super easy to trigger. Right, you get a free one. So I always like looking at it when pirates max beasts are in, because you have you know like you have the three that are make it easy to trigger. Right, beast would like a rat pack, right? A rat pack does a lot of damage when the rats are. You start a 4/4, the rats are 3/3s. You get 4/3s. Like that is a card, especially early in the game where you can. Uh, I guess early in the game you're not gonna have that the fifth.
Yeah, but
Yeah, you're not
like
gonna
you
have
have
that
just
trigger.
popped the
Yeah,
final,
yeah,
final door or whatever it's
yeah.
called. The yeah, gateway, I
Um,
think. Yeah.
but in terms of curve, what curves do I like? I I like triggering it as early as possible, honestly, because I feel like if you can trigger it, then you have time to set up an actual board state, right? So I kind of personally like using it to get another comp, you know, like I use the buffs to get a comp that works. It the the comp I like, if I'm not getting like Light Fang or some other like tier 6 composition, is Mex. I think uh the menace value on deflectors is actually quite a lot, especially when you're putting like Divine Shield and normal models of 4/6, right? So it's a lot easier to get like pretty big mechs on the board if you go mechs there. But that's if I don't get a direction and mechs are in. I'm like, okay, I have deflectors, I can do that. But in terms of just the timing as early as possible, I'm not really too patient, or I don't have like a clear like, oh, I will do this turn 6. You know, it's not that clear for me.
All right. No, that's fair, and that's a very Collins-esque answer. Like the curve will come when the curve will come.
Yeah, that is a Collins answer. Fair enough.
So yeah, I mean, in good shady fashion, I do like numbers. I do like planning. I do like being like, yeah, I like to do it here. I like to do it there. The I guess one of the more fun turns is for me do it on turn 4, 6 gold. Like if you get Gambler or if you've started with double economy units,
Mm.
so you open with a Titan Tour. So something I like doing on this guy is, let's say there's 2 tokens in the shop, I'll just freeze and I'll just buy one and then I'll
Yeah,
buy
that's
the
true.
other one, because you're throwing a little bit the 5 gold fight, the turn 3 fight,
Mm-hmm.
but you're taking like 3 damage, doesn't matter, and then suddenly you're strong the turn after because suddenly you've bought 3 things that all have +2/+2 on them. So suddenly you're winning, and then after that I guess the question is, do you pop it on tier 3 or tier 4? And I think it's just so shop dependent. So you can usually you'll go to tier 3 on 7 gold, and then on 8 gold you'll have the first option of trying to do either step 1 or step 2, depending on if you've had a good economy start or not. And then I think it just depends on, are you seeing Bronze Warden? Are you seeing Deflector? Are you seeing Whirly the Elemental? Or is the shop just bad? So I think that's just a good philosophy to follow, not on this guy, but just on almost any hero. It's, if the shop is bad, you probably want to level, or, especially in Kurtrus, you don't really want to go off on a terrible shop, because a lot of the time, yeah, you're getting +2/+2 stats, but the minion had 3/3 few less anyway. So congratulations, you still have a worse minion, as opposed to had you just bought a high main or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
there was one player that was considering popping off and like buying like the 1/2 Murloc, as like the fourth
yeah.
minion, and then just like, yeah, like I was like, you could do that, but ended up leveling, and I was like, all right, that's right. Yeah, man, it was fun. I know. I think they rolled it away, and they had like an extra gold, okay, or something like that. I think they sold a minion, which I was way better. I was more happy with than like, I'll buy a 3/4. Like that's my big turn. But yeah, this hero's pretty good. I would say, right? Like in general, just because it's hard to be last, right? There's a lot of heroes that have been doing that a lot, where it's like their stats make it difficult for them to become last. Just how the heroes work. So you're seeing a lot of like, what's the term? Tanky heroes. I don't know. Like they're not tanky
Consistent
because they,
or mid-rangey, I guess.
yeah, mid range, yeah, maybe mid range heroes. Like Yogg has that ability, right? Where
Yeah,
it's tough for
it's just
Yogg to be last.
robust, right? You're not gonna just kill him straight. It's not a Reno that didn't hit, right? Or like, if we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about,
it's not
if you want to give
Bigglesworth.
him, yeah, right. If we want to give him armor classes, right? They're like, Reno is a glass cannon, right?
Yeah,
He hit really hard, he get really hard. Whereas, something like an Edwin is more like a tank indeed. He's not gonna kill you, but you're also not gonna kill him. So yeah.
I've
I
seen
think
some.
that's a cool
I've
way of thinking about heroes.
I've seen some killer Edwins. Just get a
Yeah,
bunch
but
of
it's like late,
defenses.
late when,
Okay.
they have like the huge Hydra or huge double deflector.
Yeah, yeah. All right, that's fair. So, any final thoughts on this hero now?
So I I think indeed, if you just evaluate, okay, is the shop good enough or should we be pushing the level? I think that's one of the best things you can do playing this guy. I have not done as well with him overall, I think now, just because I've been really, really working on this tier 6 thing. And I'm just so
Right.
stuck in that pattern where, obviously, if you have to skip a turn, right? It's not really skipping a turn, you're just buying a whole lot of minions. You're not tiering, I'll put it that way. That the turn you're activating pretty much any of his hero powers, you're not tiering. So it's 3 turns of no tiering. And the way how I've been playing so aggressively, it's just, yeah, probably on one of those turns I would have liked to tier. But as you mentioned, I think that's also just because it's like high MMR, where I'm just really trying to push, and I don't get that much out of, the third place, the fourth place.
Yeah.
But it's a good hero. It's absolutely a good hero, and you're gonna struggle really to lose MMR on this guy most of the time, if you respect the rules where you're picking up economy and you're going off on decent shops.
Yeah, it's very very similar to Cthulhu. I think that's just the way to look at it. It's just another Cthulhu in the pool. Just maybe spikes differently, has a different curve, but
I guess the thing you can say here is that this guy might like triples a bit more than Cthulhu, because he can roll more for them. First of all, he's not restricted as much by the hero power. And if you happened to have a pair early, they're going to soak probably not the first buff together, but maybe one of them soaked the first buff, the second one soaked the second buff, and then they both, soak the second buff and the third buff. So one of them has +6/+, the other one has +4/+4. You merge that together, suddenly you get a whole lot of
I
stats.
mean Cthulhu
So
does that too.
yeah, but tripling on Cocoon. So first of all, tripling where the minions have been on the board soaking, right? So a lot of the time you're gonna triple like a Elemental, where you keep the other one in your hand. I think it's tough to just have 2 minions that have been on the board for a long time as Cthulhu to then triple. It can happen, of course, and then you feel really good because
Double
it's a whole lot of
deflect
stats.
though, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or something crazy, right? Like, macaws. There's been like
Uh,
2 macaws on the board, and you merge
oh
them together,
yeah,
you get
yeah. I see a
huge
lot of
ass
macaw
macaw.
selfless
Yeah,
for
that's that's a super powerful strategy on Cthulhu. Side note, but I think it's more feasible on Kurtrus, where you have a lot more gold to roll. You're not locked into spending 2 gold on your hero power every turn.
yeah. I was just saying like they have kind of the same like
For sure,
play
they have the
style.
same vibe,
Yeah,
feel to
yeah.
it.
Like they don't die early, but they don't win a lot. And you want mechs. Sometimes with both when if you have
Yeah,
mechs,
shields are
you take
good.
both.
For
Yeah,
sure.
shields are good. The cleaves are better. Well,
It's like,
actually, cleaves are kind of on both,
you got like a
right?
4
Yeah,
6,
four
right? It's
six, and
like
then
a
Cthulhu, you're
4
like,
6 Hydra. It still
yeah,
doesn't do
yeah,
anything.
and then like same thing with Cartoon, right? You're like, oh, I hope it hits here. If it doesn't hit here, it's a dead card, right? So they're
Mhm.
actually very similar. That's what I'm saying. Like, in how you play the hero. So, but they're both good, right? Like not dying, not not being last often is a really powerful trait for a hero to have. So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
definitely, if you don't like the options, don't know what to do, want to get top four, relatively easier or easier than the other heroes that are there. Ash Phone's definitely a pick. I don't know how to pronounce Kurtrus.
Kurtrus.
Kurtrus, yeah. Just gonna go to Ash Phone. All right. Next topic, I believe we have two minions that I wanted to talk about here. We've got Kelly Ghost and Little Rag. So you might be like, why are we talking about these heroes? I just felt like they're heroes that are like a little bit weird right now, especially now in this meta where you're a lot of people are going to six, right? I believe we've talked a lot of them before about they're kind of bait, they kind of suck, and I would
Mhm.
actually kind of still agree, but with a caveat now, right? Where if you can get to six and you have the right setup, right, and you can get two of them, right? Really good if you can double up on them, but
For sure.
I still see a lot of people especially in the games I've been watching, right? Get a six, it's a Caligos, it's a rag. And then they're like, I've got my comp. And I'm thinking, you're gonna die. you know, just cause you can't win with one. If you're not playing the heroes that tier up to six super early, just having a Caligos and a bunch of like non-divine shield demons, dragons, no Nadina, right? You're going to die to anything. Like you're gonna
Yeah,
die to
I
Tonkon.
would say the very, very simple way of putting this is terrible to triple into, great to roll into. If you're on 6,
Ah,
you're like,
yeah,
"Ooh,
that's
let me
true.
buy that." But tripling into them, you're just like, "Oh, I'm gonna die," because I've seen this as well, like, people on my stream as well, they ask me, like, "Not rack?" Question mark, when there's, like, 2 elementals in the shop. I'm just like, "No," because see, this is the thing, if you're gonna play rag, you have to play tier 6. There are maybe some
Yeah,
small exceptions where you took 2 triples, you hit 2 rags, and your board is
or
already super
or
rag
rag
friendly, you have a
genie.
bunch of shields,
Yeah,
etcetera, blah, blah, blah. But in any realistic, normal scenario, that's not going to happen. Your board isn't going to be super rag friendly. It's not going to be all divine shields. You're not going to pull 2 rags at the same time, and even then, you're running the huge risk of whiffing. So what do? You take the boat, and then you kill the next guy you fight, and then you tier to 6, and then you buy 2 rags, and then you can play elementals. So that's been, I'm now, I'm not more of a tier 6 expert than Collins, but I'm starting to get there where I feel it now. I'm in the flow. It's like first strong, kill opponent, then tier, then buy good minions, right? Then buy rag, then buy Caligos. Because the amount of times that you're on tier 6 and you've snagged the faces and you go like double rag, double
yes,
Cali. That's
yes,
how it happens, right?
yeah.
And then you take off. You're like, okay, I've got my comp. Let's go. But it's you take so much damage if you triple into a Kali or you triple. No, there are obviously again exceptions. Like
Yeah,
Hook Dust
yeah, yeah.
can go very early, and you can have like 2 whelps on your board, and you pull into a Kali, and you can print battle cries with your hero power. Yeah, Hook Dust can triple into a Caligos and she'll be fine. Janice can triple into a Caligos and she'll be fine.
So
These are
you're
exceptions.
you're just listing the OP leveling heroes.
Yeah, but I just wanna make it clear that it's not like I think with Rag, no. So as much as as much as Janice and Hook Dust are great, even on Jandis and Hookdisk, I wouldn't want to triple into a rag.
You need
You know, like
double triples with rag, and it has to be
you
rag.
need to have like
It
three
has to be
sixes
rag
lined up.
genie.
You
That's
gotta have 3 6s lined up pretty much. You're like, all right, I'm gonna discover 3 6s. Then you can think about it. Like, okay, I'll take the rag, I'll take hope for a genie and a gar or something.
no. You get rag genie, and then that gives you enough strength to level at the next turn. That's what happens, and then the genie starts giving you 6 drops, and
Yeah.
then you're okay, as well as being
But
on 6 drop itself.
if there is a reasonable tempo option next to the rag, you're not gonna take that chance.
I mean, so usually what happens, it's like rag zap. There's always a zap every time I'm
Yeah.
picking,
So
and then some
I
other
just want to
thing.
be like, so reasonable tempo option. Foe
Yeah.
Reaper, Mama,
Yeah.
Coiler.
If there's Faux Reaper, Mama, yeah, you take those instead, right? And
Okay.
yeah.
So we've just got that covered. Yeah, but if it's Hamul Zap, you'd be like,
Rag, yeah.
okay, I'll take the rag.
Sometimes I'm
Sure,
taking
Bobby.
Hamua. Sad to say. It just feels bad, dude. I look at him like I'm actually taking this, and I'm like, yeah. Hope
I
I
guess
get it.
when you're hooked us, I've done that because then you hear about a Hamul for a 5, and you're like, yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's not the greatest, but yeah, it's something I see a lot, especially with the tournament. I saw it a lot. Right, you're taking these and you just don't have the time. You don't have the setup, right? Especially like it's Caligos with no dragons, man. I see this a lot. It's like
That's annoying.
no, you can't scale fast enough with just one Cali, no dragons, no bronze warden there, right? If you have like 2 bronze wardens and then you're hitting Kelly, okay. I can get
You
behind
take
that
on
because
it.
yeah, you have like half a Nadine already. Like that's actually fine. But it's when you have no dragons, you're spending the next turn buying dragons, then you're spending the next turn buying battle cries, right? By the time you're somewhat good, everyone has a huge board. Like by the time you even have a full dragon board with stats, everyone has a comp, and you're just gonna get blown
Like,
out. So
even with dragons on the board, I had a game earlier today
mm,
where I know what I did wrong.
yeah,
I bought battle cries. I shouldn't have yet. So the very, very specific example. So I set up the Caligos triple
okay,
by freezing because I couldn't realistically level and triple and have it be okay. So
yeah.
what I did was I froze my triple, but I bought 2 Hanks in the shop. I was like, all right, like let's see. No, but I mean, okay, so
Okay, yeah,
the board was 4 dragons, right? I had 2 Hanks and a Dragon Spawn Lieutenant. And I pulled Callie on turn 8, I think.
okay.
So 4 dragons, turn 8, Callie goes, and I'm Hooktusk, so I can print
Oh,
battle
you're
cries.
hooked tusk. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that changes things.
Right? So we can
Okay,
look at that.
okay.
And I died 2 turns later because I ran into now I had some, like we're talking Edwin with a 40 damage taunted arm
I'm telling
enhanced
you, Shady,
deflecto.
Edwin's a killer.
Yeah. Well, this is the funny thing. The more I play tier 6, the more I hate ARM. Just like it's too good. I was a monster killing all these levelers.
Yeah.
So the more I level, the more I hate ARM. It's just so strong. You're just like, I have this huge board and it's gone because I don't have divine shields yet. And they just have about as much attack and they have divine shields. So they're just going to end up killing me. Anyways, I digress. So I think the way for me to win that game is there was like a Sneeds and a module. And it's just like, okay, I'm playing dragons, but I'm
I
gonna
need
just
to
make a
live.
module.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a module Sneeds and buy a Harbinger.
Yeah.
And then you have like the module Sneeds as a taunt, you have
Dude.
the Dragon Spawn Lieutenant as a taunt.
Oh man, you're reminding me. I was watching someone. They had a similar board where they were
Mhm.
going for scaling, but they rolled into like double Sneeds. I think they had Nomi scaling, right?
Right.
But they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got the Nomi, right? Then they rolled into like double Sneeds and like a Mama or something like that.
Skipped it for elementals.
They
Yeah.
skipped the double Sneeds and then they rolled into a normal module, and I was just like, you would still be
Oh,
alive if you just took the Sneeds, put the
yeah.
module, and then you could skill
That's
with
the thing.
Nomi and it would have been fine. But
It's more like you have to earn that position to start scaling, but then that gives this obvious weakness to,
yeah,
well, if I have to do all that work, why am I not just taking a boat, right? And then I can level, right?
yeah,
So it just gives you that. Yeah, I do feel like we're in a meta currently where you do get penalized heavily for tripling into scaling sixes. Unless it's, well, I guess Eliza is like scaling quotation
Eliza's
mark,
not scaling. I mean, it
well,
can.
yeah, I mean,
It's
but
like
like
that.
scam
Yeah,
comp
yeah,
E, right? Like
yeah,
that's why I said quotation mark scaling. But she instantly puts the power on the board.
yeah.
She instantly is relevant. So she is the exception where she's a tempo unit that also has future, which is why she is just the best six drop uncontested to triple into in almost every scenario early, I will say.
Ah, it's probably
You know,
true. I just don't want to
yeah,
admit
what
it.
amount, what percentage of times are you gonna skip Eliza, right? You have Agam on your board and it's a flat tusk, right? And then even if you're low enough HP, you might still want to take the Eliza because you're like, I can always find another flat tusk, but if I'm dead, I'm dead. So yeah, it's just such a good unit. But yeah, so to just put the contrast between Eliza and these two, Caligos and Rag, it's night and day. And I think a lot of the time you are gonna want to take that tempo unit instead of the Cali or the Rag, unless you have a very very good reason for it. Right, you're healthy, you have a board of dragons. I think that's the thing that I'm stressing. Right, you're healthy, because having a board full of dragons for the Cali and you're not healthy might not be good enough because those whelps, them being 5/6s doesn't matter too much the turn after when your opponent has a full board and you're on 5 health. You might still have needed to take something else in Cali.
Yeah. So these are pretty standard minions, right? They've been in the game for a while now, so pretty common. But I think due to like the introduction of Gale Wing kind of shifting the meta a little bit, everyone's trying to level to 6, get 6 drops, right? It it can be weird because you're dying to these minions, right? You're like, you die to double Caligos, Nadina. You die to
Yeah.
Golden Rag, Gar, GD setup, and you're like, oh, okay, we can play these, and then you play yourself and you die, and you're like, what am I doing wrong, right? It's because they're leveling to 6 and then picking it up, or they're getting double copy, like they're picking it when it makes sense, right? Where sometimes you have the opportunity to take it, but it doesn't make sense because you don't have the right setup, you don't have the right dragons, you have the right elementals, you're not on 6, you don't have an Adina, da da da. If you take it, you don't scale as fast as they do, and you die. So it's just something I wanted to mention because we needed minions, and this was what popped into my head today. So yeah.
The like one of my new favorite builds to play on tiers, well, not new builds, right? But for me is elementals. Like the percentage of games that I play elementals now is so much higher than a
It's
while back.
hilarious, right? Because like you remember, you were like shitting on elementals, like, oh, it's okay, you could do
Yeah, but I'm
it.
never on tier 6. So if you're not on tier 6,
Yeah,
they
but
are
I was.
garbage, right? They're
But
so awful.
now you
So
understand, shit. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, but so sometimes, sometimes I triple into a Gar, right? Let's say if I have a Harbinger on the board, I'm just like, hey, that's an 8/8 with taunt. Okay, okay. And now I can go to
Now
6.
you're
And
now
now
you're
I can play, I can make like a golden guard, like 2 Gars super, super early.
now I'm getting lost. At Golden Guard is the direction. You have a harbinger. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're using the harbinger to level, of course. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
yeah.
So that's the thing. But before, and this is also a credit due to the buff, right? Before it's
Right,
to be
you
like
wouldn't touch it. Yeah.
8 and 1. I don't think so. But an 8/8, if you have a Harbinger on the board, it's like, yeah, sure, why not? That's an 8/8 with taunt. That's going to give another +4/+4. That's 12/12 effective stats. That's a big boy. So like to put that in comparison, a Kali is a 4/12 when you put it down, right? So Gar effectively a 12/12 if you have a Harbinger on the board. That's a lot of combat utility.
hmm Very, very true. I think we've been being around the bush
Yeah,
for.
we can move on.
Yeah, now we can talk about going, right? It's been another week. We hadn't played going before. Some of us have played going now. At least I've watched a lot of going personally anyway, so it's not that.
That's true. I guess if you run a tournament and Gilwing is offered, Gilwing will be
I see
picked. So
going every game basically.
yeah, you have a lot of it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
so
you want to go first here?
yes, I think this hero is pretty busted, honestly. At least the way it's designed, the fact you can use the flight paths multiple times, the fact that you can use the same one like even from a theoretical standpoint, we talked about it, right? You're in Ironforge and you're going to Ironforge again, right? The fact that you get early 6 and then you just on the house every 3 turns, right? It's pretty powerful. The I see a lot of people doing either the two curves, right? Either they go for 5 and then 3 spam essentially. It's 5 3 spam or 3 5 and then 3 spam, right? Depending on how they want to do it. If they go for the 3 turn one, they usually level and get a 3 drop as well. And then they'll go for 5 and get an early 6, and then they'll just be on 6. Right? So essentially this hero gets to 6 somehow, right? If it's prize, it's easier too, right? But you get to 6 somehow, and then you just every 3 turns add a 6 drop, discover. It's not a random 6 drop even. You just discover a 6 drop like every.
I will say on average you get, I don't know, 1 point something though in your games at that point, which is still really good,
Sure,
but most games don't go long enough for you to
right.
use it more than twice at most, right?
The
Yeah,
but
it's still
the annoying thing that I've seen is you're top 2, you're fighting this guy, and then the next turn they have a free Amalgadon. So often it's
yeah.
just like, oh yeah, you're just playing normal, and then bam, they have a they have another Amalgadon, or and then you're just like, how do you deal with that? Like they just get adding. Like I've seen games where they have 5 Amalgadons, and I'm just like, yeah, they must have picked a Malgadon multiple times. Like, oh yeah, it must be nice, just getting free Malgadons every 3 turns. Oh, it was like, or they playing dragons. They got the Nadina. Like, it's so much more consistent to be running those type of compositions when you know, oh, 3 turns later, I'm gonna gonna discover it into maybe another Caligos, maybe into the Nadina. That fixing a lot of the problems that some people have later on when you can't find those right pieces. So it is
Yeah.
annoying. Like you're likely to only get like 1 or 1.5 hits, but if you do get to the late game, right, then and you're fighting someone else who's strong, then you're adding on top, oh, the free discover as well, that to fix the problems that you may be having with your board. So
Yeah.
it's not as useless, right, as it seems to.
So and that's to give you, to answer your question or to reinforce your statement, like I don't pick Westfall even if I think the game isn't gonna last for 3 more turns. You just take Ironforge and you're just like, okay, I'll just see. If
Yeah.
somehow the game is still going on, I'll get an extra 6. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's true. So I don't know. It seems busted in some way. Like it should get adjusted in some way. I think it
Yeah.
has one of the best win rates in terms of like
I
getting first place.
A nerf that I think both of us have like suggested that
Hmm.
seems fair is like make every flight path only be usable one time.
Yeah.
Where, like then you might have to think about, oh, do I want to start with Ironforge? Huh. Maybe I'll have to make a curve with EPL first work, right? The leveling one. Because it seems like a very, very standard curve is Ironforge first. You power to 3, you get a free 3 drop, you get to buy 2 minions, then you activate EPL on
Turn
what
8.
is it? Yeah. So on turn 8, you get a free tier 6. That's pretty insane. So
Yeah.
it's you get a lot of value and very, very little risk. And if we would make Ironforge only usable one time, suddenly you could still do that exact same curve, but you don't get a free 6 drop 3 turns later.
I don't know why that annoys me. Like it's so effective to just get free 6 drops. Like that's the power I want. Just oh yeah, just free.
It's pretty good. So on the house is this okay card, and it's just
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a very powerful hero. One of the more popular heroes. I pretty much see it almost every game whenever it's offered. So, um, sometimes popularity does showcase how good a hero is, right? Like you're not going to want to pick bad heroes, and this one is one that's fun to play. I will admit it is a fun hero to play, but it is very strong as well, right? So there's not like a balance where you're like, oh, do I want to play the fun hero or do I want to play the strong hero? It's like, I play the fun and strong hero.
so currently Galewing has, it's only, if we look at HS replay and we
Hmm.
look at the win rates and we filter on the top 1%, because if let's say we filter on the top 50%, Gale comes in second. And I think that is because a very large portion of the player base takes EPL first, which is a leveling fly path, because that makes sense. First level, then discover minions, discover high tier minions. I don't see what the problem is. So the logic here makes sense, but when you put it into practice, you take a whole lot of damage. So, you don't have a hero power for 5 turns, which is very different than not having a hero power for
You,
3 turns.
you know what's when you do top one, right? The safe heroes jump up, right? Like Ash Fallen is number 3. Right? That's really interesting. Right? Mutinous, right? A fairly safe hero doesn't get 8th as well. Hook Tusk and Jandis ignored. Those are like just busted. Like they're picking them because there's tokens in, right? Like so they're gonna pop off, right? And then
Yeah.
you have George, right, as well. I wouldn't say George is a safe hero. I don't understand. It's just like maybe a
George is
top 2
safe,
hero.
safe-ish, I would
Mm.
say George.
Eh, it's not as safe as like Cthulhu Ashfall, in my opinion. It wins more games though. That is maybe the difference between George and like Cthulhu Ashfall, and right, you can actually win with George. Well, I mean, you can win with all of them, but it's easier to
Yeah,
win with
it's
George.
it's more likely, if you there's 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 more than 2 ways, but there's 2 big ways to play George. There's George where I hit a triple and I'm doing stuff with like Lightfang, or I get like a Foe Reaper and Eliza, and that's
That's my
oh
way.
man.
That's my
Yeah,
way.
yeah, that's I've been doing that more now as well. I've been doing that more now as well. And then you're cheating because you're playing high
Uh,
tier and everything has shield.
yeah.
It feels like straight cheating,
It's
right? You get like Macaw with Divine Shield, like
yeah. It's
it's
so
so
nice.
good.
Yeah.
It's just shouldn't happen. It's so busted. The reason why you don't see that a lot is that George's hero power doesn't really help with power leveling,
Yeah.
and it really incentivizes playing arm comp on tier 4.
Yeah. That's the other way.
Yeah, and getting some poison murlocs in, and that is also pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So the George games where you don't do well is where you
You
didn't
don't
get your
hit an
triple.
arm or a
Well, you didn't get
triple.
a triple and you didn't see arm, and then you're
Yeah.
like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, those George games feel awful.
Yeah. They're pretty bad.
Anyways, like back to the point for Gale Wing, the reason I think why the stats are lower on higher tier is because I think still a lot of people take EPL first, even in the top 1%, and they get punished harder for it because people just spike harder
Sure.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
higher elo. And I think as I'm not saying that EPL first is always bad. By the way, I've seen very high level players go for EPL first and do well with it, but it does pack more risk. And personally, I am on like I think a 5 win streak with Gale Wing, where 5 number 1s in a row, and all of them were just very safe, almost never any danger of not getting top 1.
Sounds like a
Or
fair hero.
yeah, right. When you can say like, "Oh, it's good, like a 5 win streak," so we'll see how long it continues. But you just take Ironforge on tier 1 on turn 1, and then you get a free 3 drop. So it's like you're playing Silas. If you're playing so to give you a comparison, if you're playing Silas, the way how you get what Galewing does is you buy a ticket on turn 1, you level on turn 2, you level on turn 3 by selling your ticket minion, and then on turn 4 you hope that Bob is kind enough to provide you with 2 tickets. If not, you don't get to discover your 3 drop.
And then you
And
don't
then
get to
those,
choose what
and yeah,
ticket. Yeah.
the tickets need to be on playable-ish minions.
Yeah.
Now, for comparison, what Galewing will do is you get to discover a 3 drop no matter what. You no ticket bullshit, right? And you get to buy the 2 minions of your choosing. You are not stuck with buying the specific ticket minion. So that's Silas on steroids for the first 3 4 turns, and then afterwards you just get, I'll just get a free tier from 5 to 6 later on. All I got to do now, like pretty much when you're playing Galewing, after you have that initial discovery on 3, all you got to do, don't take too much damage. Tier 6 is free. You just gotta chill. You just gotta, like buy good units or maybe triple already. And then you have the choice usually when you're playing Galewing is, do I want to shop on 4 or do I want to shop on 5? So usually what I'll do is I'll tier to 4 on 8 gold, which is very normal. When you do your power level curve, you can tier and buy a
Oh,
minion. Oh, what's up?
oh, you're like there was a little bit of robots, but just go, just
Oh,
go.
okay. No, just making sure. So there is this power level curve where you tier to 4 golds. Sorry, you tier to tier 4 on 8 gold, where it costs 5 to tier and you buy 1 minion. And then on 9 gold, I think comes the first real decision with Galewing, where you say either I tier and next turn I buy minions, because the turn after that you go to 6 for free because of your hero power, or you buy first and then you go to 5 the turn after, and then you get your tier 6 for free. And usually for me, that's going to be shop dependent, where what you can do is on 9 gold, the tier cost 8. So you roll one time, or you have a really good shop to begin with. If both shops suck, I will generally speaking just tier, and then I just get to buy 5 drops. And then one of the best things you can do is when quill boars are in, you can already hunt for your Agon, because you know you're going to go to tier 6 and you can then find your flat tusk. Or you're just like, hey, that's a Mithrax. Oh, hey, cool. I'll just take a Sneeds. You know, you just take these tempo units to make sure that you don't take too much damage or even winning the fight. And then, yeah, then you get to start playing the game on tier 6. And we just explained that if you're rolling on tier 6, it's a very good thing. You can face as a Rag, you can face as a Kali, you can find 2 Kalis, you can roll into Eliza, you can roll into Flat Tusk. Like tier 6 is just, if you can safely get the tier 6, it's not fair compared to other people, because even other high rollers are a turn behind you, because you literally get it for free. Right? It's just literally free. You just here have tier 6. So even a Hook Tusk or a Jandas that are, like, I'm not saying you always beat high rolling Hook Tusks or Jandas, but you're a turn ahead of them. You have one turn advantage on tier 6, unless they have some like insane, like Hook Tusk swabby into swabby into swabby into swabby into, like they're not going to be faster than you.
Those are fun though. Those are also not fair, but they're fun. Yeah. But yeah, I think this hero needs a nerf.
Broken.
Yes, broken, needs a nerf. Shouldn't be so free to just get free sixes. It's really the free sixes that annoy me, I guess, at the most. Not even the free leveling to 6. It doesn't bother me as much as like, oh, I just get a free Megadon every 3 turns. Oh, I get a free Calico. So I get Nadina, fix my dragon curve. Oh, I get another elemental to because I already have a golden little rag and a Gar, but I'll take another one for free. Yeah, sure, that's plus 12 for no reason every 3 turns, set up my board. I don't know. That's kind of what
It
makes me
just
like,
adds to it, right? It
yeah.
just adds to the list of like, sometimes you just, you look at a card and you say, I like this card, but why is it this strong, right? Like, for instance, Arm of the Empire. You're like, why is this a 4/5? This makes no sense, right? Sometimes you just look at cards, like, it makes no sense. And it's the same thing when you look at this hero, you're like, this makes no sense. Like, I like the concept. It could be a cool concept, but it's
Yeah.
just, you're making it so strong that it just like, ugh,
This
shit.
always makes me feel bad for some of like the older heroes that don't get any love like this. Don't get to choose between 3 different hero powers. There is like, I do +1/+1 for all my mechs. That's it. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
you get to play Millie or Pyramid. My God,
it's like,
Jiraxis.
it's like, yeah, I have to pay for the for the the mech buff. I have to spend the gold to do that. Yep. I don't know. It's rough. So you're playing those heroes, and then the other guy is like, "Woo, going!" The Squidward meme, right?
Yeah.
You're playing Jiraxis. The other guys are like going hug test. Like,
Hook just canvas. Yeah, they're just running around. Woo!
That's how it feels, and it's like, I want a
Pretty much.
little bit of love. Why do I have to have my hero power, no flexibility for half a year, that kind of thing. Yeah, we think the hero is strong. I think.
Yeah. If you have been on the fence, please pick it.
No,
It
don't
is
pick it. No, we don't want to fight more Gilwings. Just
more. Well,
uh,
currently, if you look at its pick rate, it's
it's
at
like
81.
90%. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 89.1%.
yeah.
So that is the highest pick rate if we filter on the top 1%. And if we filter, let's say, like top 50%, we are still at number one with 84. So the new hero is so everyone is like comfortable enough already for Galewing to be their slam dunk pick. Well, not everyone, but the vast majority of people.
And with new heroes like this, it only gets more refined with time, right? Like the win rate's gonna go up.
The win rate's gonna go up. When
Yeah,
people stop killing themselves with EPL on one without knowing what they're doing, the win rate is gonna go up drastically.
and it's already like top 5 minimum, right? So a little scary. That is true. It's a little bit scary. Don't pick the hero, if I'm in the game, but you won't know I'm in the game before it shows up. So that's kind of a moot point, I guess.
Well,
Yeah,
Collins could be in any of your games, so there.
that's true. Um, Last thing I think you want to talk about is the tier 1 curve, right? I think it's been very popular.
It's all the rage. It's what all the cool kids are playing now. Yeah.
Not all the
I
cool kids, I don't do it that
well,
much.
a good chunk of the cool kids. So what is it? When do you want to do it?
Go
What's
for
the
it.
benefit? All right. So essentially, it starts with your first shop where you find, let's say, 2 micro mummies. You're like, oh, that's kind of good. And you might have this before and just like,
Yeah.
how do I make this work? I kind of want both of them, but I don't have the extra money and it's going to be awkward. So you just buy the micro mummy. The turn after that, you buy another micro mummy and you stay on tier 1 until 7 gold.
Yes.
This is the standard version. There's obviously some deviations, but if everything goes according to plan, on 7 gold, you tier for 1 gold, and then you sell 1 unit, and you get to tier again. Now, in a normal curve, we tier to 3 on 7 gold as well. So at this point, you rejoin the people that are following the standard curve, and nothing has happened in terms of your leveling. You are back on track. You're not behind or anything like that. So it is a curve that does catch up. Now, the benefit of it is that you have a high chance of tripling because the minion pool on tier 1 is very small.
Mhm.
You have a very high chance of having a triple ready. Some heroes like this curve more than others. Like, for instance, Bran loves this curve. When Alley Cat and Murloc Tidehunter are in, all you need to do is roll a pair of each of them and buy other Battlecry minions, and the Bran will triple the tokens. So with Bran, especially when both tokens are in, I would never even consider not playing this curve. It's been so good.
I've done it a
You
couple times, not playing the curve, but I do think this is probably
well, you really
more
I love playing
consistent.
Jandis. I love playing Jandis, and it feels like you're Jandis because
Yeah.
what you do afterwards. So we catch up by going to tier 3 on 7 gold. Then on 8 gold, you just tier again so that you're on tier 4, and then you play your golden tokens. And then you're like, ooh, 5 drop, ooh, 5 drop. But the difference is you already have a brand. So if you have some Murlocs, you can play Begurgle. If you get, I don't know, like Agam, and you can create a bunch of gems by doing the tier 1 piggy that creates gems with a battle cry. Hey, you have a brand. You can feed the Agam with that. So yeah, it's been very good. I think it's something that you don't want to force. I don't when you're like, okay, playing tier 1 curve this game. It's really like, okay, what was my first chop? And then you're not committed yet. Let's say the rest of the minions are bad, you can just let it go. And then when turn 2 rolls around, if it's 3 units you don't want to buy, tier. Right? Just
Well,
play
you
normal.
can
Don't
you
force
can
it.
roll, you can roll,
You can roll. You
Uh,
can roll. And depending on the hero you're playing, rolling is probably correct. So another hero that I really like playing is Janice, of course, right? But
what a
but
surprise!
yeah, right. Meta slave, right? Now Janice is just fun as well. I mean, she's amazing, don't get me wrong, but she's also fun to play. And I think the tier 1 curve has improved my win rate with Janice by so much. Because now, even with 1 token in, I have an excuse to roll on tier 1. So
You were trying
before,
to find the excuse before. Nah.
yeah. So what happened before? For anyone who's like,
Man.
so Jandis is amazing if you start with a token because you can generate a golden token eventually and pull a bunch of triples. Right, the standard Jandis curve pulls 2 5 drops on turn 8, where you have not turn 8, no, on 8 gold, 8 gold. So turn 6, you get 2 5 drops. Now the tricky thing is with Janice is, oh, what happens when I don't open with a token? Before, people were just rolling on tier 1 until they found the token and then tried to just repair their curve however they could. Now that this curve is more popular, you're just like, oh, I'll just play the tier 1 curve, and suddenly you know when to tier, you know when it's going to make sense, you're not going to waste any gold, and you just have a high chance of finding, first of all, the token, but also, second of all, 2 micro mummies on the board, 2 elementals or whatnot. So it's not uncommon to get your token triple. Sometimes your second triple will be a little bit delayed because you didn't get your token straight away. You had to roll for it. But then the other triple makes up for it. So you're still pulling 2 5-drops. And then that first 5-drop, say, from the Golden Elemental or from the cat you're playing, could contain a brand. And then, oh, you're back on track. You can buy the cat from the shop, play it, get another triple. So now you're getting 3 5-drops instead of 2 5-drops. So yeah, I think this curve is very powerful on Bran, on Jandis. And then in general, if you just have, oh, I think Reno as well. I've had my last 2 Reno games were 2 wins, and I also tier 1 curved, and I just used it to get a triple guaranteed. Well, guaranteed to drastically increase the chance of finding a triple. That's what I would say.
I want to put that I should have swapped the Acolyte with Micro Mummy. I know that's in the image.
Yeah. So Alley Cat, Murloc Tidehunter, Micro Mummy, and Elemental. Those are really, because you might say, Shady, what are the good minions, right? Those 4 minions are king. Micro Mummy, because it is just so strong. It's amazing. The unit should really not be a 1-drop. Let's be real.
Oh man, it's you're thinking what you wanted to get the selfless treatment.
I mean, I'm fine with it right now because I love playing tier 1,
Right.
and I think Micro Mummy is a great card. But there are so many times when, let's say, you're playing a Rafam, and you're like, oh, I should be okay, and you get absolutely destroyed because he has just like 4 or 5 damage minions.
Oh.
The whole time, because he just gets free buffs, free buffs, free buffs, free buffs. So whenever you're doing the tier 1 curve, Micro Mummy is the one that is just really good at keeping you healthy because you just randomly get a bunch of attack on your units. That's pretty good. And then Economy. I guess Swabby is another decent one. Swabby is the one that we didn't talk about, but you have all your economy units, your Elemental, your Tabby Cat, your Murloc Tidehunter, and then your Swabby.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do need to pay to tier. It's not tier, it's tier, sell a minion tier. So that means if you have played a Swabby at any time, it'll be tier, it'll be free.
Yeah.
But if you have a Elemental to sell, you can tier, sell, tier. So if you get no economy starters and like no mummies or what, don't force it, unless of course you are playing something like Jandis, who will gladly just pay extra to just try to find a token, because Jandis with or without a token, it's 2 different heroes.
Yeah. Very, very true. So I don't have a lot to add to this. This is like Shady's. Shady wanted to talk about this. I didn't care, but I think it makes sense.
This is something I have learned. I definitely did not come up with this. This is just I think, and this might be wrong, but from what I've heard, Zorgo was the first. I'm not sure. Let me see if we can.
I have no idea, so I'm just gonna assume that's correct. Congratulations.
Yeah, we can always ask. But his Twitch channel is Zorgo_HS. So if you want to go ask, they're like, "Are you the guy that made the tier 1 curve, or at least popularized it?" We don't know. But that's what I've heard, and from other people that are just good at the game, I just see them do it, and it's just like, oh wow, this is a whole new way to play the game. I feel like I was even a little late on this train, so I just, especially for Reno or something, I was just thinking about it, like, that makes so much sense. All these games that I'm just rolling and praying for a triple, just stay on tier 1, get the triple, and then catch up and be like, oh cool, I get a 5-drop almost guaranteed. That's just so good for your Reno gameplay.
Very true. Very, very true. But yes, if you guys don't know about it, now you know. And if you guys want to try new games, I think there's a lot of heroes, especially heroes relying on triples, heroes that want early, early pairs, things like that, and don't care about leveling to 2. A lot of heroes care more about a tripling and getting a 5 or early 6 more than getting a spawn or something like that. Like Lich King maybe wants to spawn, that kind of thing. But a lot of heroes don't really care. They want the triple. So if you feel that you're missing something, your games, you want a triple more consistent, and you don't mind staying on one, there's definitely a curve for you. Like that's my advertisement. Not that I'm really encouraging this behavior, though it is pretty strong if you can do it. So, I
It's
think
just another tool to put in your toolbox. And at the end of the day, that's what you want when you're playing BGs. You want to have tons of tools so that you encounter a situation like, aha, I know which tool to use here.
the problem is like when you have too many tools and you're like looking through your box and you have like 100 tools and you're like, what am I supposed to be using today?
Well, you can always use the Gale Wing, like all solutions in one tool thing, right? Just like it's a
Pick going,
hammer,
yeah.
it's a screwdriver, it's everything at the same time. Just slap some Gale Wing on that bad boy and it'll be good to go.
That makes a lot of sense. But I think that is our final topic for today. Yes. So I want to say thank you
You did it.
guys. Yeah, I did it. I'm a bit tired. This tournament's draining a lot of you. I was like still asleep most of the day. I was like, oh my god, I have to do this setup this today. But thank you guys for participating. Thank you, Shady, for being the co-host and joining me today.
Happy to as always.
Yes. Appreciate feedback, comments, improvements, all that stuff. You can send us whatever you want at hsbgpodcast.com if you want. You can reach me, Educated_Collins. You can reach Shady Bunny as Shady Bunny. Same thing for Twitter. I've got the Friday tournament tomorrow. Exclamation mark sign up if you're in the chat. But if you wanna play some BG, some competitive BGs, have some good casting, feel free. And that will be it for this podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Any final thoughts, Shady?
Just happy to be here, Collins, and
Sure.
I will absolutely drop by on one of your tournament occasions. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Sure. All right, guys. Thanks for everything. We'll see you later.